The basement door slammed shut by itself. Tommy Reed stood frozen on the cold concrete floor, his flashlight shaking in his small hands. The bulb flickered, then went dark. In the blackness, something breathed behind him. Slow. Deep. Not human. Above him, the old house groaned like it was alive. Tommy opened his mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Then a voice whispered his name. That was the night people would later call the real horror lurking in 1980s America. And it was already too late to run. 3 weeks earlier, everything had felt normal. It was the summer of 1986 in a quiet town called Maple Ridge, Ohio. Kids rode bikes until sunset. Parents trusted their neighbors. Doors were left unlocked. People believed bad things only happened somewhere else. Tommy Reed was 9 years old and loved comic books and baseball cards. He lived with his mom, Linda, in a pale yellow house at the edge of town. His dad had left years ago, and Linda worked late shifts at the hospital. That meant Tommy spent a lot of time alone. Most nights, he stayed inside and watched TV. But this summer felt different. Something in the air felt heavy, like the town was holding its breath. It started with small things. The radio would turn on by itself late at night, playing soft static. The dog next door, a big brown lab named Buddy, howled for hours and would not stop. Street lights flickered even when there was no wind. Then people began to whisper. A boy named Michael Carter went missing while walking home from the arcade. The police said he probably ran away. A week later, a teenage girl, Sarah Miller, disappeared too. Same answer. Same calm voices on the news. But parents started walking their kids to school. Tommy noticed his mom locking the doors now. Every night. Twice. One afternoon, Tommy was riding his bike when he saw the old house on Grant Street again. Everyone called it the Hollow House. It had been empty for years, its windows dark and broken like missing teeth. But this time, a light was on in the basement. Tommy slowed his bike. He told himself it was nothing. Someone must have moved in. Still, his stomach twisted as he pedaled away. That night, Tommy dreamed of knocking sounds under his bed. Slow knocks. 3 at a time. When he looked down, the floor opened like a mouth. He woke up screaming. The next day at school, his best friend Jake Wilson told him something strange. "My dad says people are lying," Jake whispered. "He says the kids didn't run away. He says something is taking them." Tommy laughed, but it came out weak. "Taking them where?" Jake shrugged. "Somewhere dark." That evening, Linda came home late and tired. She hugged Tommy tight, tighter than usual. "If anything ever scares you," she said softly, "you call me. No matter what." Tommy nodded. Later that night, the radio turned on again. This time, it wasn't static. It was a voice. Low. Quiet. Calling from far away. Tommy sat up in bed, heart pounding. The voice sounded like it was coming from under the house. From the basement. He tried to ignore it. He pulled the blanket over his head. But the voice kept calling. Gentle. Patient. "Tommy, come see." His feet moved before his brain could stop them. The basement door was open. That had never happened before. The stairs creaked as he stepped down, holding his flashlight. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom, he saw something on the wall. Handprints. Small ones. Child-sized. His flashlight flickered. That was when the door slammed shut above him. And the breathing began. Slow. Deep. Right behind him. Tommy spun around, his heart pounding so loud he thought it would burst out of his chest. "Hello," he whispered. The breathing stopped. For a moment, the basement was silent. Too silent. Then the flashlight flickered back on by itself, casting a weak circle of light across the room. Nothing was there. No monster. No shadow. Just dusty boxes, old shelves, and the smell of damp wood. Tommy let out a shaky breath. Maybe it had all been in his head. Then he saw the wall. Someone had written on it. The words were scratched deep into the paint, like they had been carved with a nail. "We are still here." Tommy backed away until he hit the stairs. He ran up them as fast as he could, throwing the door open and slamming it behind him. He pushed a chair under the handle and stood there, shaking. When his mom came home later, he told her everything. The voice. The writing. The breathing. Linda listened, her face pale. "It's just stress," she said, but her eyes kept drifting toward the basement door. "You've been alone too much." The next morning, the words on the wall were gone. Painted over. That should have made Tommy feel better. It didn't. At school, more desks were empty. Michael. Sarah. Now Jake was gone too. His chair sat unused, his backpack still hanging on the hook. The teacher said Jake was sick. Tommy knew that was a lie. After school, he rode his bike to Jake's house. Police cars were parked outside. Jake's mom sat on the steps, crying into her hands. When she saw Tommy, she looked at him with red, tired eyes. "If you hear him," she whispered, "don't answer." Tommy rode home fast, his legs burning. That night, the radio stayed quiet. The house felt calm, almost normal. Tommy started to think maybe the horror was over. Then the phone rang. It was almost midnight. Linda picked it up. She didn't speak. Her face drained of color as she listened. When she hung up, her hands were shaking. "Who was it?" Tommy asked. She forced a smile. "Wrong number." But later, Tommy heard her crying in the kitchen. The next day, the town held a meeting at the community center. Parents packed the room. Police officers spoke in calm voices, using careful words. "Missing persons," they said. "No signs of danger." An old man in the back stood up. "You're lying," he shouted. "This happened before." Everyone went quiet. In the early 1980s, the man said, kids went missing. Same ages. Same streets. Then it stopped. "Why?" someone asked. The old man swallowed. "Because the house burned down." Tommy felt cold all over. "Which house?" he asked, though he already knew. The old man looked straight at him. "Grant Street." The Hollow House. That night, Tommy dreamed again. This time, he stood in the basement, surrounded by other kids. They were pale and quiet, their eyes wide with fear. Jake was there. Michael. Sarah. They pointed toward the stairs. "Don't let it take you," Jake said. Tommy woke up screaming. The next afternoon, while his mom was at work, the radio turned on. The voice returned. "Closer now. Tommy," it said gently. "We're scared." Tommy covered his ears. "Stop." The voice softened. "Help us." He knew he shouldn't listen. He knew it was dangerous. But the voice sounded like a child. Like someone trapped. Like Jake. Tommy grabbed his bike and rode to Grant Street. The Hollow House looked worse than ever. The windows were broken. The door hung open. And from the basement window, a faint light flickered. Tommy stepped inside. The air smelled like smoke, even though the house had burned years ago. The floor creaked under his feet as he moved toward the basement stairs. At the bottom, the light grew brighter. Then the wall began to move. Hands pushed through it from the other side. Small hands. Dozens of them. Reaching for him. Tommy screamed and stumbled backward as the hands pulled back into the wall. The wall went still again, like nothing had happened. His chest hurt from breathing too fast. "Jake," he whispered. No answer. The basement light flickered, then steadied. Tommy wanted to run, but his legs would not move. He took one small step forward. The wall was solid now. Cold. Normal. He touched it with one finger. A soft knock came from inside the wall. 3 taps. Tommy pulled his hand away. "I can't," he said, his voice shaking. "I need help." The air grew colder. The light dimmed. The voice returned, not kind anymore. "Then you will stay." Tommy ran. He flew up the stairs and burst out of the house. He jumped on his bike and pedaled as fast as he could. He didn't look back. He didn't stop until he reached the police station. The officers listened. They exchanged looks. One of them sighed. "Grant Street is condemned," the officer said. "No one lives there." "But kids are trapped," Tommy cried. "In the walls." They called his mom. Linda arrived fast, her face tight with fear. She hugged Tommy and thanked the officers. On the drive home, she didn't speak. That night, she packed a bag. "We're staying at my sister's," she said. "Just for a while." Tommy felt relief for the first time in days. But when they reached the car, it wouldn't start. The radio turned on by itself. Static. Then a voice. "You can't leave." Linda slammed the radio off and tried the engine again. Nothing. From the end of the street, the lights flickered. A shape moved between the houses. Tall. Thin. Wrong. Linda grabbed Tommy's hand and ran back inside. They locked every door. Linda called the police, but the line was dead. The house felt colder by the minute. "Mom," Tommy whispered, "it's coming." A knock sounded at the front door. 3 taps. Linda backed away, pulling Tommy with her. "Go to your room," she said. "Lock the door." Tommy ran upstairs. He hid in his closet, hugging his knees. He could hear voices now. Many voices. Children crying. Calling his name. The knocking moved. Downstairs. Upstairs. Closer. The closet door began to shake. "Tommy," Jake's voice said softly. "Please." Tears ran down Tommy's face. "You're not Jake," he said. The shaking stopped. The door opened. The thing stepped inside. It looked like a man made of shadow, but its face kept changing. Sometimes it was Jake. Sometimes Michael. Sometimes Sarah. Their mouths opened too wide. "We were forgotten," it said. "Now you will remember us." Tommy squeezed his eyes shut. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the house. Fire alarms screamed. The thing hissed and pulled back. Linda burst into the room, holding a burning lamp. "Run!" Smoke filled the hallway. Flames climbed the walls fast, like they were hungry. They ran outside as the house burned behind them. Neighbors gathered. Fire trucks arrived. Sirens wailed. As the fire died down, an officer approached. "This is strange," he said. "The fire started in the basement." Tommy felt sick. The next day, the news said the fire was an accident. No bodies were found. No answers. But that night, Tommy dreamed again. He stood on Grant Street. The hollow house was gone. In its place was a dark hole in the ground. From deep inside, a voice whispered, "We're still here." Tommy woke up to knocking. 3 taps. On his bedroom wall. And the wall began to crack open. The wall split with a loud crack. Tommy screamed and rolled out of bed as a long dark line opened across the paint. Cold air rushed into the room, smelling like smoke and dust. From inside the crack, fingers pushed out, shaking and weak, like they were trying to be born. "Mom!" Tommy yelled. Linda ran in and froze. The wall broke open. Faces appeared inside it. Children's faces. Pale and tired. Jake was there. Michael. Sarah. Their eyes were full of fear, but also hope. "They're trapped," Tommy cried. "We have to help them." Linda shook her head, tears in her eyes. "We already tried to run. It follows us." The shadows around the faces twisted and grew taller. The thing rose out of the wall, stretching up to the ceiling. Its voice filled the room, low and heavy. "This town forgot," it said. "So I stayed." The lights exploded. Glass shattered. The house shook like it was going to fall apart. Linda grabbed Tommy and ran outside. The neighbors were already awake, standing in the street, confused and scared. Walls cracked in other houses too. Dark shapes leaked out like smoke. All across Maple Ridge, the horror woke up. Police sirens screamed. Fires started. People shouted names and cried. The town that once felt safe was breaking open. Tommy stood in the street, shaking. "It's because no one listened," he said. "They ignored it." The thing rose above the houses, tall as a building now. Faces moved across its body, pressing from the inside. "We were buried," it roared. "Now you will see us." Then something unexpected happened. The old man from the town meeting stepped forward. His hand shook, but his voice was strong. "We remember," he said. "We remember what happened." Other adults joined him. Parents. Teachers. Police officers. They began to speak names out loud. The missing kids. The forgotten ones from years ago. As each name was spoken, a face faded from the shadow. Tommy understood. They just want to be remembered, he said. They don't want to be alone. Linda squeezed his hand. The thing screamed, a sound full of pain, not anger. The shadows began to pull inward, shrinking, cracking like dry dirt. The ground on Grant Street split open. A deep hole appeared where the hollow house once stood. Wind rushed down into it, pulling the shadows with it. The children's faces looked peaceful now. "Thank you," Jake whispered. Then they were gone. The hole closed. The street went quiet. Morning came slowly. Maple Ridge was damaged, but the horror was gone. Police found old records, hidden reports, and truth that had been buried for years. The disappearances from the early 1980s were finally admitted. Memorials were built. Names were carved in stone. People talked. They remembered. Tommy and his mom moved away a few months later. They never went back to Maple Ridge. Years passed. Tommy grew up. He tried to live a normal life. But some nights, he still woke up sweating, listening for knocks. 3 taps. One evening, in the early 2000s, Tommy turned on the TV. A new story played quietly in the background. A small town. Old houses. Missing kids. The reporter said, residents claim something dark may be connected to the disappearances. Tommy turned off the TV. He walked to the window and looked out into the dark. For a moment, he thought he saw handprints on the glass. Then they faded. Some people say the real horror in 1980s America was crime, fear, and silence. Others say it was something darker, something that fed on being ignored. But one thing is true. When people stop listening, when they forget, the horror never really leaves. It just waits.